About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the joint staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago. And we did it because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia, and we went to work. And it was President Reagan, in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, "You know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit these mujahideen, and let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam, so that we can go beat the Soviet Union." And guess what? They retreated. They lost billions of dollars, and it led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a very strong argument, which wasn't a bad investment to end the Soviet Union, but let's be careful what we sow, because we will harvest.
U.S. National Security Advisor Brzezinski flew to Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. On the Afghan border near the Khyber Pass, he urged the soldiers of God to redouble their efforts.
We know of their deep belief in God, and we are confident that their struggle will succeed. That land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day, because your fight will prevail, and you'll have your homes, your mosques back again, because your cause is right and God is on your side.
Carter's National Security Advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, is also a member of the Council.
In 1972, I became director of the Trilateral Commission, an American, Japanese, West European public organization. In 1976, I directed the Foreign Policy Task Forces for Jimmy Carter. Then I became his National Security Advisor for 4 years. Then I went back to private life, although in 1988, I was co-chairman with Brent Scowcroft and Henry Kissinger of the Foreign Policy Task Force for Vice President Bush.
You mentioned something earlier that you've done that comes up right in the spot that you're sitting many times by our callers across the country, and that is a suspicion that there is a conspiracy afoot through the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations. You ran the Trilateral Commission for how long?
About 3 years, I think. Something like that, 3 years. Not only did I run it, I helped to found it and organize it with David Rockefeller.
It was Zbigniew Brzezinski who was behind the funding and arming of the Mujahideen in Pakistan and Afghanistan, a tactic designed to incite the Soviets.
Was moving too slowly, but the fall of Ramadi has galvanized the Iraqi government. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
Secondly, it is counterproductive because right now, U.S. arms are getting into the hands of our enemy, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, these other groups, Islamic extremist groups who are our sworn enemy. These are groups who attacked us on 9/11 and who supposedly we're trying to defeat, yet at the same time supporting them with these arms to overthrow this Syrian
So you
government.
don't even want the U.S. to provide weapons or arms to these anti-Bashar al-Assad rebels?
I don't want the U.S. government to provide weapons to Al-Qaeda, to Islamic extremists. I don't want the U.S. government to provide weapons to Al-Qaeda, to Islamic extremists. I don't want the U.S. government to provide weapons to Al-Qaeda, to Islamic extremists, to our enemy. I think it's a very simple concept in my mind that you can't defeat your enemy if you're arming them and helping them at the same time. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Have you told this to officials at the White House?
We've had conversations, both in hearings and otherwise, and I think it's important for the American people to stand up and say, look, we don't want to go and do what happened in Iraq with Saddam Hussein, do what happened in Libya with Gaddafi.
Just in case you're thinking that this is irrelevant to our current situation, we should point out that Zbigniew Brzezinski is an acknowledged friend and mentor to Barack Obama.
He has proven to be an outstanding friend and somebody who I've learned an immense amount from. And for him to support me in this campaign and then be willing to come out here to Iowa is a testimony to his generosity. So if everybody could please give Dr. Brzezinski another round of applause.
Today we honor all of the brave American and Indian military service members who work together to safeguard our freedom. We stand proudly in defense of liberty, and we are committed to protecting innocent civilians from the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. Thank you.
The problem is not Islam. The problem is tyranny. And if we convince the decent Muslims of the world, the decent people of the world, the people who are in slavery, essentially, including in many of these states, the women, that we are on their side, we will ultimately prevail, just as we did in World Wars I, II, and III, the Cold War. As we do this, we close with this. We will make people nervous. We will make the Saudi royal family nervous. We will make the Mubarak regime in Egypt nervous. And if we succeed in freeing Iraq, and then begin to turn our attention to the Syrias and the Libyas and the other rogue states and exert pressure for them to change, the Saudi royal family and the Mubarak regime will come to us and they'll say, we're very, very nervous. And our response should be, good. We want you nervous. We want you to realize that now, for the fourth time in 100 years, this country and its allies, its democratic allies, are on the march. We are going to win, and we're going to win because we are on the side of those whom these regimes most fear, their own people. Thank you.
Give him tenure if you like him so much.